Welcome to the Live Life Well podcast for busy women. As a busy mum myself, I understand how hard it can be to look after ourselves. But hopefully this is a space for you to take time out, find connection, and get some simple takeaways to live life well, mind, body and soul. Let's jump in. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Live Life Well podcast for busy women. And I really hope this is an opportunity and an invitation for you to slow down and think about how you can take care of yourself this week, because we're all busy, we're all rushing about, but it's so important to take this time out for you so you can feel your best and enjoy life to the full. So I'm really thrilled to have a guest on today who's going to help us to do that. So welcome, Jacqui, to the podcast. We've got Jacqui Taylor today joining us, who is a writer, a coach, a yoga teacher, a cancer rebel. I love that. And Jacqui, you run a 12-week program that helps people go from having a busy, distracted mind to feeling back in control over your time and daily life. So that sounds wonderful. I think we definitely need your help today with all of that, especially as busy women. So Jacqui, don't you just say hello and tell us a little bit about you and how you got here today and what your kind of work is and why you love it?
Yes, thank you, Joanne. Yeah, my name's Jacqui Taylor. I have donned many hats in my time. As you said, I'm currently, now I am a writer and a coach and a yoga teacher. I'm also a physiotherapist, and that was my previous business. I had a local business in the town that I live in. Before that, many, many years ago, I had a corporate job. I worked in corporate sales, going back longer than I care to admit to. Yeah, so all the work that I've done in most recent times is all wrapped up in health, obviously physical health with a physio, and then moving more towards, I guess, emotional, spiritual is kind of where I am a little bit more now from my journey. A lot of that coming out from having a lobular breast cancer diagnosis and then starting writing, and then all the reflection that brings kind of piqued that interest. And what I kind of set on a bit of a mission at that time to try to share the wonders of things like breathwork and meditation with people who would just never consider looking at anything like that, because they just think, oh, that's not for me. And yeah, so I have an online breathing course, and I run my coaching program and do some online sort of meditation week. I don't want to use the word challenge because it shouldn't be a challenge, but just like a container to do some things with people, and writing. So I'm working on another book, and I do lots of the writing for myself. I have a Substack account, which a lot of people have never heard of, but it's another platform, but predominantly aimed at writers, or where there's like long form content. So if people are up for reading something a little bit longer than a social media post, it's a great place to put things. So I'm spending quite a lot of time working on that at the moment, so that's fun.
Brilliant. Yeah, I've not really got into the world of Substack, but I think it's another encouragement to kind of slow down and get away from that kind of instant gratification. We want those little 10-second posts we're all a bit addicted to actually read something proper that's got a bit of substance to it. It's good for our minds and our souls, isn't it? So I'll have to take a peek at that. Amazing. So we're going to be talking a bit about breathwork today, which I think fits in so well to our theme of encouraging each other as busy women to slow down and take care of ourselves. But before we get into that kind of conversation, I love hearing different people's responses to this question. So Jacqui, can you tell us, what does living life well mean to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I was looking at it earlier on going, oh, okay. And it's an answer in two parts, I guess, because I do think living to your dream is really important. And I know we talk a lot and within yoga and other things about not getting attached to an outcome, but I still think it's really important to be working towards something or having something that you are really passionate about. But then coupled with that, it's about then living with contentment daily. So that kind of offsets the attachment bit, because I just think living day to day is something that is talked about so much. And when you get it right and you can actually do it, and you can just strip away all the big stuff and just have small things that make you smile. I mean, we were saying earlier on before we started about the dogs and things, often having a dog, there's just so many little things that they do, aren't they, that just fill you with joy for something really, really, really silly. And that was something I very much learned when I was going through my treatment, my cancer treatment, that you have to live day to day. And it's, you know, I often go back to that and we sort of refer back to that when I sort of feel like I'm losing the plot over nothing. And go, okay, let's just get a measure of this, but not then, like I say, I still think it's really important to work towards and be working towards the thing that lights you up.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that answer, because it's those two things in balance, really, isn't it? One without the other won't give you that full sense of joy and satisfaction. But it's so important to have passions and purpose, something to get out of bed for, to feel like you're living for. But if we live in the future, we're not going to be happy in the present. So learning that practice of gratitude and contentment and acceptance and enjoying the journey, isn't it? So those two things, intention, are so important and so key in our well-being and our happiness. So I love that answer. So Jacqui, I do feel really kind of honoured to have you on today with everything that you're bringing, your journey and your experience and your wisdom. And I'm imagining from our conversations before and from hearing a bit about your story that, your journey has sort of brought you to this place where you are passionate about the importance of taking care of ourselves as women, to take care of our health and our well-being, but also that's led to a passion to share that with others and encourage other women to do the same. So would you just mind sharing a bit about your journey? You've touched on it in your introduction, but just, how your journey with your own well-being has given you that interest and that passion and well-being, and then we can sort of look more specifically at breathwork as part of that journey.
No problem. I mean, I think at the point when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, it was in the middle of COVID, so everybody was a little bit. It's July 2020, so everybody was a bit heightened, weren't they, in their nervous systems at that point. But you know, before that, the way I talk about it is on paper, and to everybody else, I would have looked like a really healthy person. And it wasn't that I wasn't. Because, you know, I was on my feet all day for my job, which I'm not now. And I noticed that a lot, you know, on my feet all day for my job. I did triathlons. I was out and about all the time. I ate pretty well. I didn't smoke. I was never overweight. My blood pressure was fine. All those things. I did drink, which was the one thing. But obviously, living, as you've said so much, the whole point of the podcast about being very busy, having my own business, kids, you know, house to run, and all the other pressures that run on, just being on all the time. And even the things that I was choosing to do for relaxation was on, because it was training for triathlons and stuff. So it was all do. And, you know, along the way, even before, I'd had a lot of gut problems that were pretty much all stress related. And, you know, I'd done a lot of things, hence, you know, my diet was good. I'd made loads of changes, but it was kind of a bit surface level, really, because I was kind of doing the thing without doing the thing, if you know what I mean, because it was all just like, well, I've done that, tick, I've done that. And I guess I was not very good at relaxing. Some of it's my personality. Some of it's because I had this massive thing about being lazy. If I wasn't doing, I was being lazy. So over that now. I'm really quite happy to just have a cup of tea and sit and read my book.
Good.
No problem. But it was kind of knowing it all and not doing it, knowing I knew about so many things. I'd done yoga on and off in the past, but it was always very, this is going to be good for my flexibility. This is going to be, you know, so I mean, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's more outcome rather than
actually doing it. And when COVID hit, I did some work with the local yoga studio, because we were all busy going, oh my God, what are we going to do? And we were running like little online groups and like all supporting each other. And she did a little meditation thing in my group, and she'd done a meditation challenge. And I was like, oh, let's just try this. I feel like I know that I need to do something. So I kind of dug in and started doing that. and was trying to do a little bit of that every day and doing some breathwork stuff. And then once I had my diagnosis, and obviously I wasn't then at work at all, I just started doing a bit every day because I knew enough to know that it would be helpful. And because my mind was so busy, just doing the breath work and doing the exercises, because it's all about techniques and counting and so many rounds of things, your mind is naturally just doing this stuff. So it's not thinking about whatever you're thinking about. And I just realized how powerful that was. So it came out of that. And so I worried less about the meditating side of it and just did these breathwork practices every day. And then not loads of physical movement, because I was having all these tests and things and everything was, biopsies and stuff and things were sore. And then once I'd had my surgery, I started using things for rehab, but it was sort of obviously very slow. And I just did a lot. And then the one point that it all really kind of came together, and I wrote about this in the memoir that I wrote, was when I was having my radiotherapy. And this is something I kind of can't at the end for me of the sort of treatment that I had, where I had 2 primary cancers, one in each breast, and so I had to have both sides radiated. So it was quite a long treatment for me. But you have to do all this breath holding because they want you to fill your lungs to push your heart out the way, so they're not radiating your heart. It's all kind of, don't want to think about it too much. You just go, yes, I'll do that. Sure. But they're like 25-second breath holds, and they give you this little lesson at the start when you go for your prep things. And I'm like, oh no, I'm cool with that. I've been doing loads of breath work, and I went away and practiced it. But obviously then when you're in the room and it's quite stressful and they kind of set you all up and you're not allowed to move because it's like precision, because they've got like tattoos on your body and they use all these lasers to line you up. So you're always in the same place every time you go in, and then you're not allowed to move. And then they go out and then they give you these instructions. And then you're doing all this like 25-second hold, and then they tell you when you can breathe again. So I just remember thinking from the first session, oh my God, thank God I've practiced this and I'm cool with it and I'm not going to go into panic. And I just remember sort of smiling to myself inside thinking, oh, that's what all this was for. It was all leading me to lying here in what is so stressful, and I'm cool with it. And then there was one particular session where I got this kind of like itch on the back of my back. And again, I said, if you move, they have to start all again. So you don't want to move. And we'd literally done something the week before in an online breathwork session that I used to do, where she'd said, resist the urge to fidget and scratch things. And I just thinking, yeah, I can do that. And I just like breathed away and ignored this itch for the whole of and then eventually it went, and then you forget thinking about it. So that was just one of those occasions where something that I've been practicing, I just remember it so vividly, being able to put it into practice, rather than kind of going, oh yeah, breathing, oh I need to do this thing. So that's just that I just needed it at that point, and it just felt like that had been why I'd been doing it. Obviously there was more than that, but for me it felt like I'm cool about this. Because before then I didn't breathe properly. It's one of the things I teach in my workshop. I didn't breathe properly. I learned that when I was doing my physio training. I was like, oh, how have I got to 30 and I don't know how to breathe properly? And then when I first learned how to swim front crawl, I couldn't breathe properly. So it's something because so many of us, because of a tension thing, so many of us we grip our bellies, we grip our shoulders, we breathe in our upper part of our lungs, not the lower part of our lungs. There's so much tension around it, and if you don't breathe properly and you're not getting the oxygen in and out, and you're not getting rid of the stale stuff, and you're not getting oxygen into all the different parts of your body, before we've even talked about the nervous system, which I know you wanted to go on and talk about, there's just loads of physical things that are bad if we don't breathe properly, and most people are just completely unaware of what they're doing.
Yeah, I think you mentioned on your website that it's something we take for granted, isn't it? Breathing, like we all breathe. We think, yeah, we breathe. What's the big deal? I breathe. You just breathe, don't you? There's not like a right or wrong way, but there absolutely is, isn't there? And I'm so excited to like dig into the benefits of it with you. But it sounds like from what you're saying that kind of breath work found you at a time where you're going to need it, and that sort of picture that you've painted, that really powerful picture of being in that intensively stressful situation and being able to use that technique to calm yourself down, able to be still in that moment, which must have been really scary and really intense. But I think there's so much we can take from that, because thank God we're not all in that situation, and thank God you are well now, and we celebrate that. That is fantastic. We're so glad. But life is stressful, and we find ourselves in these stressful situations daily. And I think breath work, which we're going to talk about more in a moment, is just this beautiful antidote really to the busyness around us, and just the demands of daily life in this modern world we live in. I was listening to a podcast earlier today about meditation, and the host said something about we need to seek out intentional isolation every day, just to find those moments of slowness. Just, it doesn't have to be big moments, does it? But I'm really passionate about connection and community, and that's really important too. But there's something about retreating by ourselves for a moment to catch our breath and to take that care of ourselves and do that work away from the noise and the busyness. So I'm really excited to talk about it more today. I think it'll be a real tool in our wellbeing toolkit that you can share with us today. So Jacqui, can you just give us like a bit of a beginner's guide, like a bit of a, if we don't really know what breath work is, like what is it? What does it mean? And how does it sort of help us in our well-being?
Yeah, I mean, the term breath work sort of emerged. I mean, within yoga, it's called pranayama. Different philosophies call it different things. And I think that's just come about because just to say breathing, people are like, well, I breathe, and then they just dismiss it. And there are many benefits, health benefits to do with, sleep, sleep apnea, heart rate, blood pressure. Nasal breathing is in general better because it filters all the air. The pressure's different, rather than mouth breathing. So there's lots and lots of benefits. The way I come at it, because of my history and because of knowing how stressed I was, and as you've said, living in this busy world, I very much come at it through the lens of something called polyvagal theory, which is a way of looking at the nervous system. So people are familiar with the concept of fight or flight and rest and digest, which are the two states of the autonomic nervous system. Polyvagal theory was something that was devised by an American psychiatrist in the 70s, a guy called Stephen Porges. But it essentially is the same thing. It just adds another level to it. And I kind of got all excited about it because when I actually did my yoga teacher training, there is something in yoga philosophy called the gunas, and that's 3 levels, which are effectively the 3 levels of polyvagal theory. So I always like it when Eastern philosophies and things that people have done for thousands of years, that they just knew instinctively. And then in the West, we kind of come up with these very scientific theories and they just mesh. And it's like, but people just knew that instinctively. And we have this way of making everything very medicalized, don't we? And I kind of just love it when it kind of blends together. Yeah. But essentially, we have that state of what's called, from a technical point of view, the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight, when we're in mobilizing energy and we're, pretty hyper, and it's the running away from the lion piece where we divert blood from our stomachs, our reproductive organs, and everything else that's going on in order to pump blood and oxygen to the muscles, increase the heart rate, to run away or to fight or flight. That's kind of the basis of it. And obviously it's there for good reason. Everything in our body, all the systems in our body are there for a really good reason, because they're there predominantly to protect us and to help us stay alive. Evolutionary, our main thing was staying alive. But what happens in modern life is, rather than there being, and don't get me wrong, sometimes there are physical dangers for us, but so many of us have psychological threat rather than physical threat. That means we're living in this mobilizing energy state, this sympathetic state, and we're never moving out of it. And it's there for a reason. And there are times in the course of our day, in perfectly healthy, threat-free situations, where we need a bit of mobilizing energy, feeling a bit sluggish and a bit whatever, and you're like, you need a bit of get up and go, go for a walk or whatever. Or if you've got a young child or a pet or something and they run into the road, you need to get them and pull them back. It's all of that. That's perfectly normal, natural and healthy. and then we move out of it into a more balanced, regulated state, which in polyvagal theory they call ventral vagal. There's some quite technical terms, but it's just that feeling regulated and grounded, like you can cope with the demands of life, which is where most of us, would want to live. And it's kind of the rest or digest, but it's got a little bit more energy into it. The balanced state's got a bit more energy into it than the rest and digest. The other state is a state of collapse, sort of depressive, overwhelmed, lack of interest, loss of motivation, that people can fall into as well. So a very lethargic state where they don't care. They've just lost all interest in the world. So that obviously isn't rest or digest, and that's in a different state. And again, sometimes that is a normal place to be. But it's a ladder, it's a hierarchy. So to move from that low state of depressive and no energy, we need to go through the mobilizing state, which is why they tell people who have depression in bits and pieces to get out and do exercise and walk, because you need to create some mobilizing energy to then go into the higher level, the sort of top rung of the ladder, which is a balanced state. So the reason I'm saying all this is that all of this is run automatically in the background. Our body responds, and all those functions of breath and heart rate and blood and circulation and everything just happen automatically without us thinking about it. And the only thing within that autonomic system that we have control over is our breath.
Wow.
Because we can't change anything else, but we can influence the other things by changing our breath, and we have control over our breath. So it's like a gateway in. And our physiological state, as represented by our nervous system, those three states I've talked about in the nervous system, and the physical states in our body, so heart rate, say, has an influence on our psychological state. So that's why breathwork, again, is such a powerful thing. So if we effectively interrupt that autonomic pattern by actually taking control over our breath and slowing it down, and softening the belly and allowing the diaphragm to lower properly and not grip our bellies in as us women have such a tendency to do, and give the lungs space to expand, and we breathe in and out through the nose, and we can create an even breath or an extended exhale, or there's loads of funky punky breathwork techniques that have got various things that they do, and different ratios of breathing in and out, and holding breath and retaining breath and pumping the breath. There's loads of cool things you can do. But all of that has a knock-on influence to the heart rate and beyond. And we have control over that, and we can choose to do it. And if you practice it, like anything, it's not just going, all right, well, someone's taught me that, now I'm fine. If you actually practice it every day, just like if you were learning to play the piano, somebody showing you once doesn't mean you can do it. So if you practice it every day, and the beauty of breath work is sort of twofold, is A, you can make a difference in 5 minutes a day. And you get the instant reward when you've done it. So one of the key things about habit building is that you need to get a reward from the habit for you to want to do it again. And there's lots of things that are classed as good habits, whether that's exercising or eating well or what have you. We don't get necessarily an instant gratification from it. It's delayed, isn't it, before we see the benefits of going for a walk or going to the gym or, not eating the biscuit. But with breath work, it's kind of twofold, because you get the long-term benefit over time of doing it, of just everything in your system flowing down and you're just feeling more calmer. But you also get the instant feel-good factor when you finished your practice, because it just creates that sort of serenity and tranquility of the mind, because the mind follows the breath. And if you do the exercises, doesn't matter if you've got a busy mind, your mind will follow the breath. And if you're counting and like concentrating, whether you're listening to a guided session or whether you're familiar enough to sort of do it yourself, you're counting your breath, you're counting the rounds, your mind will naturally follow, and therefore your mind will slow down, and you start to get the benefits of a meditative practice without sort of stressing about, oh, but I can't stop my thoughts. And that for me was where it went. Now I've subsequently, as I've got good at breath work, and I spend a lot of time working on it, I've got into very much more doing meditation. But I still use breath work to get into the meditation, because you still use it to slow down the mind to get you there. But the reason I sort of teach a specific breath work workshop and techniques is because it's like the way in. It's the way into the body, it's the way into the nervous system, and it's also the gateway into being able to meditate. And it's easy and it's free and you don't need any equipment. And the hardest thing for most people, and it was no different when I was a physio trying to get people to do things, is building the habit of doing it and people remembering. But literally 5 minutes, and we all spend more than 5 minutes scrolling Instagram, don't we? So you can find 5 minutes really easily if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. And feel a lot better than you would have if you were scrolling Instagram, for sure. And I love that, because we were thinking of talking about meditation as well today, but we decided just to focus on the breath work, because I think, like you say, meditation can be really hard for people, especially to start off with. To actually, the thought of doing nothing for 5 to minutes can be terrifying. But what I love about breath work and how you're describing it is that there's something to focus on, to hold your attention, but in a really restful, gentle way. That can be a great way to get into that kind of practice. And I love that it doesn't have to take much of your day, because there are a lot of things that we know we should be doing. We should be eating well and exercising and having self-care and getting enough sleep. And there's all this pressure to do all these things that are good for us. But the fact that we only need to do 5 minutes a day to feel the benefits, it's a really easy way to start taking care of yourself, that like you say, will get you that reward. You want to keep doing it then, and then once you're feeling the benefits of that, you might think, okay, I can do that, then what's next? You'll feel proud of yourself, think, I can do this, what else can I bring in that's going to help my well-being? So I love that, and it's something that I have dabbled with. I would love to get more into, so I love that we're talking about it today, so I'm like, give me all the tips. But I love what you're saying about the nervous system as well. That's something that I'm really fascinated in, and I know from speaking to a lot of people, especially after the pandemic and lockdown, a lot of us are, like you say, permanently in that state of fight or flight, where it just feels that the world is a bit of a dangerous place. We're always like looking out around the corner for something scary to jump out, whether it's the news, social media. We just don't feel safe in our bodies anymore. So having simple practices like this that help us slow down and remind ourselves that we are safe, and like you say, we can take back that little bit of control over our situation and our well-being by taking care of our breath. Just feeling like there's something that we're in control of can be really helpful to help us feel
and
safe,
I think
can't it?
there's a couple of things there. Is that yes, we have to let go of the things that we don't have any control of, and again, that was something that people talk about. But when you have something like cancer, there's loads of things you've got no control over, but you need to find something that you have just for your own sanity. And the nutrition thing became a big thing for me, because I could completely control what I ate, what I actually physically put into my body. I had complete control over that. And yeah, I mean, the world is a difficult place, but we can still feel safe within it if we are safe, if we learn to sort of accept and allow a lot of the stuff that's going on that's in that kind of outer sphere, but actually tend to and take care of that inner sphere, which is us. And then how we then respond to those events and those external stimuli can be different, and often they can change. We'll see them differently when we've tended to ourselves, and that we're not, we literally don't have a fuse paper, something happens and that's it, we've gone. If we can create that delay between something happening and our response to it, and breath work can start to do that, because you can slow down, and it's just creating little interrupts in the day. I mean, personally, I've always done my breath work in the morning, just because that's how it works for me and that's how I built the habit. But it has definitely helped my sleep, even though I don't do it specifically at night. But I guess when I do get into bed, I do start very consciously breathing in and out of my nose and slowing it down, but it's not a practice. So there's this overflow effect into the whole of your day if you do it regularly, and then you then sort of naturally start to do it when you feel yourself heightened, or you can just pause and do it. and it just brings more mindfulness to everything that you're doing. I mean, I have lots of little funky things that I do to bring, like even things just like rubbing my fingertips together just to like bring that sense in, or being really mindful when I'm cooking and like turn everything off and just listen to the knife on the chopping board, and so bring certain things in and then be breathing, because all of those things, they just slow everything down and bring us very into us, so we can just tend to that. And I stopped watching the news. We listen to the news on an evening, but I used to be listening to the radio every morning, and I follow what's going on. I have my own ways of doing it, but there's certain things that I don't do, and there's a lot more times now where I switch stuff off, to not constantly just be absorbing, but while still wanting, I'm not one of these people who doesn't, I want to know what's going on, but I don't want it to consume me. So, there's lots of tips and things that you can do. And I mean, when I was a physio, I say this so often, if I'd had £1 for every patient, then they came in and went, I haven't done what you asked me to do as often as you said. And it's just like, we're so prone, aren't we, as humans, to not do things. But there's so many things we do with so much ease that there's so many things that we do that we could just change. And I think the perception of breathing practices or meditation being time consuming, and there is that, and I don't know who to credit it to. It's been, there's so many people, it's like, if you feel like you haven't got 10 minutes to meditate, you should meditate for an hour, or I've seen that credited to so many different people and so many different versions of it. But essentially, if you feel that you are so busy in your life that you don't have 5 minutes to sit down, then you are definitely in a place when actually what you really need to do is probably take 2 hours out of your day, because you know what I mean? One of the exercises that I sometimes get people to do when they work with me is a bit of an audit of how they're spending their time, and look at all those like 5-minute chunks of what they do, which, along with things like habit stacking and all those sort of funky things that you can do to help you add new things. It's actually to really think, well, where are all those leaky holes in your bucket where the day just disappears? And I'm as guilty of the next person. I know, what they are. The reason I was going to say that in the morning thing was, one of the reasons that's really powerful about doing practice in the morning is that it delays that hyper arousal of the day. Because if you get out of bed and the first thing you do is pick up your phone and check your email and go on social media or go on the news, or you just start the minute you've woken up, that's it, you've opened the floodgates to everything. Whereas if you put it to one side, don't check anything, I don't know, depends on lifestyle, doesn't it? If you've got kids that are trying to get to school or whatever, but if you create some really strict boundaries around it, or just don't look at anything until you've actually done some practice, you're kind of delaying it all. And it'll all still be there at like 10 o'clock when you do check it. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I think the morning practice is so powerful.
Yeah, I can see that it's a really great foundational practice. And realistically, we're all busy, but we could all find 5 minutes. But it sounds like the reward, the payoff for that small cost of your time is massive. And I can imagine it's something that if you get into, you quickly feel the benefits. So then you want to keep doing it. So I think it's getting started is probably the biggest barrier. But quite quickly, I think you could get hooked when you notice the difference it's having through your whole day, that kind of ripple effect from that small investment of your time. So yeah, I can imagine like a lot of us are probably thinking, I just don't have time. I don't have time. But really, we do. Like you say, we can find the time. If we want to feel better, it takes intention, doesn't it? And I mean,
it's all a choice, isn't it? We have a choice.
Yeah, how we spend our time. Yeah, we've all got the same time, don't we?
And we can espouse that we want certain things, or we value certain things, and we can say it. But whether we actually put it into practice is actually what the reality of the situation is. Yeah. And there's no judgment. It is a choice, and we are a product of the habits and the things that we do every day. That is who we actually are. If you want to be a calmer person, then and even if you know that you're not, that isn't naturally who you are, then you need to do things. And one of the things that I say to people is, you know, these tools, and like when we were doing the yoga teacher training and things, it's not about changing who you are. It's not trying to be a different person. I'm still very, very fast-minded. And if I don't rein it in, it's just, you know, that's who I am. That's the way my brain works. So I use these tools to kind of create this little bit of respite in my day, just to give me some space. And it's like a massage, you know what I mean? It's like going for a massage and just feeling good, that then allows me to be the person that I am the rest of the time. I'm not any different. I mean, I do feel different. I do feel calmer in myself, a lot calmer. And I feel I'm slower. But I'm not. I can still do, you know, if you see my noteboard up there, I've still got way too many projects on the go. But I use the tools to allow me to be me, but in a safe way that isn't going to blow me up, because the way before was just push, keep going, not take any time out if anything did hit me, and then just keep going again. And, you know, so many people live like that. And, you know, the only person that suffers is actually you. And as you said a few times about making space to take care of yourself, which is a big ethos that I apply. We're no good to the world if we're not well.
100%.
So it's not a selfish thing. And this is, you know, I don't use the term self-care. It's not something I particularly like. It's one of these things that's been weaponized, isn't it? And people just use it. But if we don't look after ourselves, we can't look after anybody else. We're not there to look after anyone else if we don't look after ourselves. And we can't have any kind of impact in our work or in the lives of anybody if we're crumbling. So it's actually, so much of the things you're doing, you're actually doing it for other people. And I think when you're ill, and obviously cancer's quite a dramatic way to learn these things, and I often wish I'd, you know, kind of got it sooner, but it is quite scary, and you kind of want to be there for your kids and things. And so it's like, well, let's try and do what we can to make sure that was, you know, the end of it. And I have no control over that. Well, no, that's not fair. I have some control over it as to whether that's the end of it. But there are things I can do to influence what happens. So yeah, I can't say enough good about it, and I just think it's not hard, and it's fun, and, you know, people that have done. In fact, I got a lovely message from a lady the other day, because I'm running in the next week or so, I'm running like just a freebie 5-day sort of renewal meditation and journaling week, with just sort of daily meditation / breathwork and prompts for people as we transition, I'll say, into summer. I don't know, we didn't really have spring, did we? But as we transition,
we take whatever we can off the sunshine.
The seasons. And one of the ladies who said about it, she's like, she did my breathwork course ages ago, and she's just like, oh, and I still go back to your breathwork course, and it's brilliant, change things. Which is really nice when people get something out of the stuff that you're doing, isn't it? It's really lovely when people actually say it's made a difference. And another lady I'm working with, who I don't think ever really got it, messaged me the other day, and she's like, oh, that last practice we did, I've got it now. I actually got to that point where and she said now she's meditated every day since then. So it's like,
oh, that must be so rewarding when people, like, when it clicks, get that light bulb moment. Yeah, definitely. And there's something about slowing down to then go faster. Not that going faster is the goal, but unless we take a step back and slow down and build these practices in, we're not going to be as productive, or we're not, like you say, that impact, which I totally agree with. That's why I do what I do, to have that impact in the world. But we're better. We're just better people if we do those little practices to take care of ourselves. And it can seem it kind of goes against our grain to slow down when we've got so much to do. But actually, if we don't, we're going to burn out and go into that sort of state of collapse that you talked about. And there's a real cost, isn't there, to not dealing with the stress in our life. If we don't deal with it and we're just running in that fight or flight state, it's going to catch up with us, isn't it? There's all those the negative impacts of those stress hormones in our system, on our well-being, inflammation, like premature aging, disease. Like it's going to catch up with us. We don't want to focus too much on the negatives. We want to focus on the benefits of doing the good things. But yeah, it's a choice, like you say, and it's a tool. And this is just information, isn't it? To know there are things you can do to deal with life better, to feel better, and to enjoy it more and have that impact in the world that we want to have. So, so good. So before we kind of wind down our conversation, do you have any sort of really simple tips or takeaways about how we can start incorporating breathwork into our busy lives as busy women? You know, is there a simple way to get started?
Yes. The first thing would be to breathe in and out of the nose. When you think about it. Now, when you're exercising and things, you know, you naturally, because we're trying to get rid of heat as well, breathing out of the mouth is normal. And the other thing would be to soften the belly and not grip your belly. So if you're wanting to be purposeful about your breathing, if you want to sit tall, create some space between the rib cage and the top of the pelvis, let the belly hang out, nobody's looking. And then when you breathe in, and this is the thing that a lot of people are really surprised about, when you breathe in, the belly should go out, because the diaphragm drops. And if the belly's soft, the abdomen will go out to make space for because most of the lungs are at the bottom, the biggest areas at the bottom. So as you breathe in, the belly goes out. A lot of people think breathing in is sucking the belly in, and that's actually the wrong way around. And that's often when we teach that at the beginning of the course, people are like, oh, yeah. And then you breathe into the belly, into the side ribs. And then it's only if you're taking a really deep breath would you ever get to the upper chest. And the shoulders and all of this area should be completely still. So if you find when you're breathing, it all feels like it's up here, it's shallow, you're not using anywhere near the full capacity of your lungs. So yeah, nasal breathing, and so in and out the nostrils, even inhale and exhale, and soft belly. And just be aware that your belly's going out as you breathe in. And if you're feeling stressed, then make the exhale, so the breathing out, twice as long as the inhale. So like breathe in for a count of 3, and then breathe out for a count of 6. And yes, as you breathe out for a longer time, your belly should actually suck in, because you're kind of pressing all the air out. But when you breathe in, it should be soft. So yeah, that's the best place to start. And yeah, I just remember being taught that at physio school, which even that's a long time ago now. I'm thinking, what?
Yeah, that's news to us, like how to breathe well. Like,
and it's not. And if anybody's got small children, if you watch a little child breathe, because little kids don't suck the bellies in, do they?
No,
you see the bellies going in and out. That's, you know, and even toddlers and things, I think they get to a certain age, and then people start holding the stomachs in, don't they? And women are bad for it. Women are bad for it.
I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it? I think we shouldn't take up space in the world. But that's really great. Like, I love it when we get this really great, simple takeaways from our guests, because we want things that are easy to apply to our lives, don't we? If it's complicated, we're not going to do it. So that sounds great. So just for 5 minutes in the morning, just taking some time to think about our breathing. I notice it all the time. If I'm a bit stressed or anxious, I notice I'm just breathing up in my chest, and I'm hardly breathing. Like, it's this short breath. So I had to take a moment to slow down and I tell myself, I say, you're safe, Joanne, you're safe. It sounds silly, but and just taking a few deep, long breaths, and you notice it, you feel it straight away, that sort of stress melts away a little bit, doesn't it? So I can imagine having that as a daily practice could be really beneficial. So thank you for that. So so just breathing into our bellies, slowing down, breathing in through our noses, and in for shorter, out for longer if we're wanting to relax our nervous system. I know you can sort of do the opposite round to energize yourself.
There's loads of things you can do to energize, but in general, at the start, most people need calming down.
Yes, we do.
Most people need calming down. So, and often when we do the courses, I do sometimes teach one of the more energizing breaths. People don't tend to like it, because obviously
you get a bit kind of lightheaded, do you?
Well, a little bit, but also because most people sign up because they know they want to calm down. So giving them and it takes a bit more practice and things, and sometimes you do need to enliven yourself, and there's ways around. But in general, it's, you either want to do a balance, so even, or extended exhale. I would say I mean, there's all sorts of funky single, alternate nostrils and all sorts of funky things. But
that's a good place to start.
Yeah,
That's
keep
great.
it simple to start with, yeah.
Yeah, and see how you get on, and then you can get more into it as you start to feel the benefits, and people can talk to you and get some more tips. So, on that note, if people would like to find out more about the work you do, the courses you run, or just find out more about breathwork and the different techniques, how can we stay in touch with you? Where's the best place to find you?
So I'm on various social media, and I do have a website, which is jacquitaylor.net, or www. And on there's various information about the courses and me and my books and the breathwork course. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, more Instagram, and then I also write on Substack. And on Substack, I write about lots of things, most of it about wellbeing. Some writing stuff as well, but generally in that space about well-being and mindfulness, and some stuff about routines and habits, because it's all about the doing, because knowing it is of no value unless we do it. So Substack, Instagram, Facebook, and then the website.
Fantastic. And I think it's such a fascinating topic, and I'm really excited to go away and practice. And please, if you're listening and you try it and you feel the benefits, let me and Jacqui know. We'd love to hear how you get on with it. And yeah, definitely have a look at Jacqui's work and her courses if you want to kind of get more into it. But it sounds like it's such a great, simple wellbeing tool that can have a really big impact, a really good payoff for the investment. So thank you, Jacqui. Thank you for sharing that. And we'd love to have you back again to talk about like meditation and some other things. There's loads of things we could talk about. So just before we go, Jacqui, just for a bit of fun, to end on a light note, I'd love to hear what you choose for your last meal on earth.
Yes. So I've given this a lot of thought, because as we said, when you told me that was going to be the final question, because I choose to restrict certain things in my diet, and I don't eat gluten and I don't drink, I was like, I tend to cook all my own food. But I did come up with something which kind of breaks some of those rules. But
it's your last meal, doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely go with fish. I really love fish. So fresh, probably something like a sea bass or something in a nice sauce with lots of fresh vegetables and things. A nice glass of crisp wine, probably Chardonnay. I like quite dry, buttery wine. Nice. Which would be a treat because I don't drink anymore. And then for dessert, a lemon tart with raspberries.
Lovely. It sounds like the perfect like spring summer meal. It's making me hungry thinking about it. So that sounds spot on. And like fish is one of those things that's nice if someone else cooks it for you, isn't it? Because they'll do it really nice.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? When you go out, it's like, when you have something that you think, oh gosh, I wouldn't have bothered to cook that for myself. It's a lot of faff. So
yeah, definitely. Oh, thank you so much, Jacqui. It's been so great to chat to you. I've loved listening to you share on something that you're so knowledgeable and passionate about. And I will pop all your links in the notes for the show. So thank you so much for your time today, Jacqui. And let us all know how you get on with your breath work.